mentioned before, the approach to this has been kind of somewhat soft-handed, because after all, they get money if they publish it. Establishing a contemporary worldview as an alternative to the faith-based worldview described in the Bible. Put simply, science often claims that so-called scientific facts produce a superior interpretation of the reasons for the existence of the universe. And it's committed in diverse forms. However, science is not omniscient, and it is subject to that concepts once regarded as absolute truth are not. The origins of the universe and of life itself have not been proven scientifically, and still today represent major unanswered questions, although this reality is not often not stated, in open debate in science textbooks. So many of the fundamental dogmas associated with scientism are held by fate, or to use a more appropriate scientific term, speculation. The so-called scientific dogma pertaining to the origins of the universe and of life do not in themselves fulfill one of the essential attributes of the scientific process, that is, having firm and testable evidence. Anything less is thus a faith-based system, which may come as a revelation to many. A second revelation we have seen is that science itself, and virtually all its component machinery, is subject to bias. Young, aspiring research scientists have to undergo a long period of study and training, and may, if fortunate, secure a tenured or tenure-track position in their early to mid-30s, having invested much time and financial resources, and often having personal and social commitments that can affect the objectivity of their work. Under such circumstances, they may have little interest in challenging the scientific establishment. In times past, once a tenured position was secured, the researcher was essentially free to pursue new ideas that would challenge accepted dogma without fear of dismissal. But in more recent times, this contractual provision has all but vanished from academia. In many institutions, academics are now subjected to regular proposals by the administration to evaluate their progress through analysis of key performance indicators, and failure to meet such arbitrary criteria can result in failure to progress through salary scales and obtain promotions, and can ultimately result in dismissal from employment in one's chosen field. Skipping the next paragraph, career research scientists have thus have to abide by certain rules of engagement if they wish to be successful in this highly competitive environment. And challenging establishment dogma on practices in their respective chosen fields would be detrimental to smooth and rapid advancement. This is one of the main reasons why many of them remain silent or guarded in their speech and writing during their employment, choosing to toe the party line. However, upon retirement or after a major award such as a Nobel Prize, many scientists are free to speak openly about the state of bias and the problems in science, as is in the case with some of the authors cited in this chapter. Perhaps this chapter can be best summarized by an article written by Lee Smolin, published in Physics Today and entitled Why No New Einstein, in which he analyzes the position of innovative and independent thinking scientists in what he calls the hostile environment which they currently inhabit. He writes, those who follow large, well-supported research programs have lots of powerful senior scientists to promote their careers. Those who invent their own research programs usually lack such support and hence are often undervalued and underappreciated. People with the uncanny ability to ask new questions or recognize unexamined assumptions, or who are able to take ideas from one field and apply them to another, are often at a disadvantage when the goal is to hire the best person in a given well-established area. In the present system, scientists feel lots of pressure to follow established research programs led by powerful senior scientists. For those who choose to follow their own programs and understand and that their career prospects will be harmed. But there are still those with the courage to go their own way is underappreciated. It is easy to write many papers when you continue to apply well-understood techniques. People who develop their own ideas have to work harder for reach results because they are simultaneously developing new ideas and the techniques to explore them. Hence, they often publish fewer papers, and their papers are cited less frequently than those that contribute to something hundreds of people are doing. It is thus evident that the current system of funding, review, and publication of scientific research, rather than facilitating those with brilliant, innovative, and questioning minds, serve to make their work more difficult and demanding than that of their compliant peers. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why the current research literature is composed predominantly of incremental studies on previously revolutionary scientific discoveries and not with those of game-changing nature. In view of the fact that scientific research currently receives considerably more funding than at any time in human history, the scientific establishment urgently requires a revolution in its operational practices to eliminate the numerous points in its procedures at which bias in all its forms takes place. It is not good enough for the establishment to say that the systems of academic appointments, promotions, evaluations, and peer review of grants and publications are flawed, but are the best that we have. It is also unacceptable that research themes and funding initiatives should be set by politicians and administrators, and that what appears in published form should be the final decision of journal editors. Science agendas need to be set by scientists themselves, and freedom of thought and the generation of diverse ideas should be the main drivers in these processes. To paraphrase Albert Einstein, the problems we face today cannot be solved by the minds that created them. Now, my take on it, I think Shaw does make a good point. Science subconsciously enforces conformity, sometimes consciously, in the educational system, in the funding system, and in the publication system. It should not be taken as objective, at least the current scientific consensus, and challenges to theological and philosophical ideas should not be immediately settled in favor of the current scientific consensus. I think that this is the point of the chapter and why it was included in the book. When we add to that point, of 53 groundbreaking studies in cancer research, 37 could not be reproduced by Amgen researchers. So we may remember that. Shaw's conclusion is surprisingly soft-pedaled. Doesn't really give you where we go from here, except, well, the scientists should be allowed to publish, I guess. The problem with specific bias against intelligent design is even more to the point of the thesis of the book. Yeah, science is flawed, but it's flawed specifically in this area. Steve Meyer's paper in the Proceedings of the Biological Society of Washington was formally retracted by the Council of the Biological Society of Washington. You think about what that means. It was retracted not because of any factual errors. They didn't like where he was going. Those of you who want to look it up, there's a reference, and there's a note under Stephen C. Meyer at Wikipedia, which is really interesting to read in this regard. Another plea often articulated by ID proponents is the idea that there's a community of ID scientists undergoing persecution by the science establishment for their revolutionary scientific ideas. A search through PubMed fails to find evidence of their scholarship within the peer-reviewed scientific literature. In the original Wedge document, a key part of the plan to displace evolutionary biology was a program of experimental science and publication of the results. That step has evidently been skipped. Nice criticism, except that when you take Meyer's paper out of the literature, now you get full surprise. By the way, that comment was with attribution. A paper defending science and education against intelligent design, a call to action, which doesn't sound like an unbiased evaluation of what's going on. And of interest is a couple of authors here, Elliot Sober and Ronald L. Numbers. Just of interest. And if you want to, there's where the article is found. Now, the Chinese article on the hand deserves mention in this regard. Those of you who've been here often may remember that. The original article is Biomechanical Characteristics of Hand Coordination and Grasping Activities of Daily Living. Got into class 1, apparently passed peer review, and then they discovered that it referenced the creator. And they went bananas. So those of you who haven't been here can look it up on that second reference on YouTube. And there's another reference in The Independent, which gives some fascinating comments. It is true that science is biased, but it is even more true that science is biased against intelligent design. In that case, taking such biased science as the best approximation of reality in the area of intelligent design is nonsensical. The chapter laments the present system but does not give any good solution. Now, there is not a perfect solution, and there may not be a good solution or a good enough solution, but I would say that the best attempt so far at a good solution is the establishment of ID-friendly journals, such as Biocomplexity, and ID-friendly books. I might say, for creationists, I think Origins has been a really great blessing. It helps to partially correct the imbalance that's found in this chapter, we've just been discussing applies to both sides of book scientific critique, both the question of design and nature per se, and the question of the origin of man. And I think it functions as a good transition to philosophical critique, which is coming next. But that's my opinion. That's your turn. Yes, all right. Of course you do. And this is recognized not just by intelligent design people, it's recognized by scientists across the board.
If you want to get stuck with ideas, if you want to discover something new, it's not the way to go forward.
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is. Of course, there is some
been able to get a few peer-reviewed papers into the system. Yes, the lower echelons of the system, but it is technically in the system. Now, complexity is not the only thing, and I think that even if you have a biased system, it's probably worth trying to see what you can do to work through it as well as go around it. Comment over here, and then down.
It sort of reminds me of the experience that early 7th century, notably Ellen White, making loose from the establishments of other religions. And they had to set up separate publishing organizations. They were doing their own signs at the time that never get published. And of course, once they settled out, they realized they did. They put a lot of energy into it, a lot of marketing skills into setting up those publishing houses, and look where we are today. Just by the way, they don't have some of these statements that were made, as you quoted, somehow the final authority seems to be the Nobel Prize. And we wonder, of course, the Nobel Prize award, yes, they have free once they got the Nobel Prize to critique the system. And they routinely do open up according to what you decided. Among other difficulties, the Nobel Prize so free from all this bias.
Well, as a matter of fact, it's not, and that was one of the more interesting things that the major inventor of MRI imaging was a creationist and was denied a Nobel Prize because specifically they didn't want to give him a platform.
Even the Nobel Prize Committee.
Even the Nobel Prize Committee.
Although they seem to be more objective, except for some of these prizes have been awarded and open question and not after. But in science, it seems to be more objective.
They try, but like I say, even there, if you're an open creationist, one particular person who made a major advance was denied specifically on the basis of his creationism. So, that's, I still remember that Jesus got the same criticism as any of the scribes and Pharisees believing in. And so I would say that although it's not something that one would want to desire deliberately, not being recognized by the establishment does not appear to be a complete negation of the value of one's work. Okay, we're going to come in here.
About this, probably just because I have extensive experience with peer reviewing, being part of a professional, doing professional peer review. As a practicing engineer, all of our work is peer reviewed. All work has to go through a building department, somebody who has to review it, approve it. And so, in some ways, I just practical aspects get a lot of experience with this. And I've noticed also I've done peer review on the academic side of conferences and stuff, Frankenstein conferences and things. And I've noticed that there's some differences that kind of show up in the way that the author has written this. It's very clear that he's done a good job of summarizing how the academic side of things works. And the one comment I would say is that on the practical side, when you peer review something that has to be built and constructed, and then you basically get feedback if it doesn't work. Basically, if I let something go through, and then I build it and then it fails, you get a feedback loop there.
Yes.
Whereas if I go through some scientific publication and I publish something that is something
But you have 100 years to quote.
right, exactly, like all these things where they cited something and went to replicate the research, and then also they didn't replicate it, but that is very rare. But the one thing I would notice, like when I was reviewing a bunch of papers that were submitted recently for the main national conference on geotechnical engineering, a lot of the stuff that was submitted, it was pretty chunky. If it wasn't good, about half the papers I had to recommend to be rejected.